Time to talk about Tuesday. So, yeah, as per usual for the past few years, on Tuesday, there were riots in Edinburgh on Bonfire Night with people using fireworks as firearms. I'm not going to really cover that, as I'm barely even qualified to talk about the main subject of this video, but stuff went down across the city, and I think it's the worst that it's been in my lifetime. Last year was bad, but 2/3 of Lothian's bus network were affected by diversions, and I think someone nearly even managed to blow up a police station with a petrol bomb, and that's about as much as I'm going to say on that. Let's get into the diversions. So yeah, because of these incidents around the city, buses were diverted. 2/3 of Lothian's routes, in fact. 28 of 42. And that's not even including the 4 Lothian country routes that were also affected. Okay, so yeah, I've compiled a Google Doc with all the diversions, along with what time they happened, and I'm gonna go through each route that was diverted and what their diversions were. Also, as of filming this, I've heard that there is actually stuff happening as well on the Wednesday, so the day before this should come out. But I'm not going to be covering that. I might maybe just put that stuff in the description or in the comments section. But I'm not actually going to cover that in this video. This is specifically about Bonfires Night and Bonfires Night only. Okay, so the first route I'm going to be covering is the one which, it's diversion. It only got diverted in one area, and that was Claremiston. There was stuff going down in Claremiston, so it was rerouted to terminate at Meadow Place instead. Meaning the part of Meadow Place Road, Drumbray South, and Drumbray Drive weren't served. So, yeah, this diversion came into play at 7:45 p.m. and then remained until the end of service that day. And then, from start of service the next day, buses returned to their normal route. Next up, Service 2, at 5 p.m. yesterday, it was diverted from the Niddry area. So towards the Jewel, buses were diverted from Prestonfield via Old Dalkeith Road, Little France Crescent, Pringle Drive, Milgan Drive, and the Wisp to Niddry Mill Crossroads, where they would resume their normal route towards the Jewel. From the Jewel towards Newington, buses would follow this diversion to Cameron Toll Roundabout and then operate via Lady Road, Craigmillar Park, Mayfield Gardens, Minto Street, and then resume normal route to Hermiston Gate. This diversion then ended at the end of service on the day, and then buses resumed their normal routes from the start of service the next. Next up, we have Service 3, which from 6:30 in the evening was diverted in the Gilmerton area. Towards Midlothian, buses were diverted from Clerk Street via East Preston Street, Dalkeith Road, Old Dalkeith Road, and Ferny Hill Drive to Gilmerton Crossroads, where they would then reserve normal route to Mayfield. From Midlothian towards Edinburgh City Centre, buses follow the same diversion, but at Cameron Toll, since the roundabout's only partly closed, they were able to resume the normal route just by cutting down Lady Road straight to Cameron Toll. Later on, at 8 p.m, the buses were diverted in the Wester Hales area, as there was events happening on Calder Road and Wester Hales Road, so buses were diverted from Calder Road East via Longstone Road and Murrayburn Road to the West Side Plaza before resuming the normal route to Clovenstone. At 9 p.m, the diversion was slightly changed, so it meant that Stenhouse Road, Calder Road East, and Longstone Road wouldn't be served on the diversion, and buses would instead divert from Chester Avenue, down Chester Avenue to Slateford Station, down Slateford Road, and then through Ingles Green and Longstone Road up to Longstone Bus Depot, and then resume the diversion via Murrayburn Road from there. This diversion, unlike most others, was lifted at the end of service, so that buses could return to their normal route from the start of service the next day. Next up, Service 4 only faced one diversion. However, that diversion was being curtailed at Fir Hill, meaning that Oxgangs Road North, Oxgangs Road, and Bigger Road weren't served from roughly 9 p.m. until roughly 11 p.m. Next up, we have Service 5. From Greenbank, buses were instead diverted to continue along Comiston Road to Fairmile Head and then down Oxgangs Road to New Swanston to the Hunter's Trice terminus, instead of serving Oxgangs Avenue and Oxgangs Road North. This diversion was in place from 10 p.m. until half an hour later at roughly 10:30. Next up, we have Service 7, which from roughly 6:30 was diverted between Kames Crossroads and Gracemount Crossroads, not serving Captain's Road, now going via Birdie House Road, Edinburgh Bypass, and Last Wade Road instead, as I think South House was one of the areas that was really quite badly affected by the fireworks. Next up, for Service 8, from 6:30 on Tuesday night, buses were curtailed to Lady Road at Cameron Toll, not meaning that it wouldn't serve Liberton Road, Gilmerton Road, Mordenvale Estate, Old Dalkeith Road, or the Royal Infirmary campus. This diversion was in play from 6:30 in the night until roughly the end of service. Next up, we have Service 11, which, like the 7, was altered in South House between roughly 6:30 and the end of service. However, instead of diverting via Birdie House, the Bypass, and Last Wade Road to Hythes Bank, it was just cut to King's Crossroads, with buses turning at Birdie House Turning Circle, roughly a 2-minute drive down the road. Next up, we have the 14, which had the same route as normal, heading from your house towards Prestonfield, then from Prestonfield Avenue, buses would instead omit it and go straight down Dalkeith Road, and then Old Dalkeith Road, Little France Crescent, and Pringle Drive, and then connect onto the normal route at Milligan Drive to Green Dykes Turning Circle. On the return route, however, due to the partial closure of Cameron Toll roundabout, Service 14 was then diverted via the same route to Cameron Toll, however then going via Lady Road, Craigmillar Park, Mayfield Gardens, Minto Street, Clerk Street, and then rejoining the route at Sergeant Hall at Nicholson Street, meaning that most of Niddry, Craigmillar, Prestonfield, Pollock Hall, and St Leonard's wasn't served by the 14 heading towards the city. Next up, we have the 16, which had the same diversion as the 5, however slightly different, as it has to go through to Collington instead of terminating at Hunter's Trice. So instead of going down Greenbank Crescent, Oxgangs Avenue, and Oxgangs Road North, it went via Comiston Road to Fairmile Head, and then Oxgangs Road, and then part of Oxgangs Road North to Cocket Hat, and then continuing the normal route down Dreghorn Road. Next up, we have the 21, which was one of the most severely affected routes on the entire network. Wouldn't say it's the most, as there's one route coming up that was without a doubt the most affected. So first off, at 5 p.m, buses were diverted away from the Niddry area, so coming from the Royal Infirmary, buses would just then divert via Milligan Drive and the Wisp to Niddry Mill Crossroads, and then the same route back to the Royal Infirmary, meaning that Niddry Mains Road and Green Dykes Road weren't served. Later on, at around 6:45 in the evening, buses were diverted from the Claremison area, and between Drumbury South and Davidson's Mains, buses operated direct via Queensferry Road and Drumbury North, meaning that Claremison Road North and Drumbury Drive weren't served by the 21 until the end of service. The Niddry diversion also ended at the end of service as well. Next up, at about 7:50, the 21 was diverted away from Broomhouse Road and Calder Road due to events happening on Calder Road, and were instead diverted via Bankhead Drive and Bankhead Avenue to Wester Hills Road. This diversion was in play for 65 minutes until a new diversion came into play where buses were just completely curtailed from the area altogether and terminated at Drumbury Roundabout, meaning that Meadow Place Road, Broom Hall Road, Broomhouse Road, Calder Road, Wester Hales Road, Murrayburn Road, the West Side Plaza, Halesland Road, and Clobenstone Road weren't served until the end of service. Next up, we have Service 24, which was for about a period of about 5 minutes, about about 6:20, was diverted when heading towards the wall due to partial closure of Cameron Toll. From the normal diversion, instead of cutting straight down Mordenvale Road, buses continued along Gilmerton Road to Gilmerton Crossroads, down Ferny Hill Drive, and then down Old Dalkeith Road to the Royal Infirmary campus. This diversion was only in play for a short amount of time, though, as shortly after the riots on Gilmerton Road started, meaning that the service was just completely axed east of Cameron Toll for the rest of the day. Next up, we have Service 25, which was diverted from Calder Road via Longstone Road, Maryburn Road, and Wester Hales Road in both directions from about 10 to 8 in the evening. That diversion wasn't in play for long, though, as at 8:45 in the evening, the service was just completely axed east of Longstone Bus Depot, meaning that Calder Road, Hermiston Park and Ride, the Avenue, and Harriet Watt University weren't served for the rest of the day. Next up, we have Service 26, which was diverted from New Bigging and Pinkey Road at about 5:25 due to riots in East Lothian, or which, as far as I'm aware, these were the only ones. So buses, instead of serving New Bigging and Pinkey Road, instead operated directly to Leavenhall Roundabout via Linkfield Road. This diversion was in play until the end of service. Next up, we have Service 27, which had the same diversion as before, and it curtailed at Firhill from about 9 p.m. until roughly 11 p.m. Next up, we have Service 29, which in Gilmerton had the same diversion as the 3, so towards the city, it just diverted via Ferny Hill Drive, Old Dalkeith Road, and Lady Road, omitting Gilmerton Road and Liberton Road. However, due to, yet again, the partial closure of Cameron Toll Roundabout, it followed a slightly different diversion, which is the same as the southbound 3 diversion, towards Gilmerton and Midlothian. The diversion, of course, being East Preston Street, Dalkeith Road, Old Dalkeith Road, and Ferny Hill Road. This diversion was in play until the end of service. So next up we have Service 30, which had the same diversion as the 2. So towards Newington, buses were diverted from Nidri Mill via The Wisp, Milligan Drive, Pringle Drive, Little France Crescent, Old Dalkeith Road, Lady Road, Mayfield Gardens, Craigmillar Park, and Minto Street. And towards Nidri Mill, buses were diverted from Prestonfield via Old Dalkeith Road, Little France Crescent, Pringle Drive, Milligan Drive, and the Wisp. Next up, we have Service 33, which had relatively the same diversions as the 3. From 8 o'clock, buses were diverted from Calder Road and Wester Hales Road via Longstone Road and Murrayburn Road. An hour later, buses were diverted for more than just that section, as, of course, Stenhouse Road and part of Calder Road were closed off due to the riots, meaning buses were diverted via Chester Avenue, Stateford Road, Ingalls Green Road, and the other part of Longstone Road, and then continuing from Murrayburn Road via the diversion. This diversion was in play until the end of service, yet again. Next up, we have Service 34, which, from Longstone Road, due to the stuff at Calder Road, buses were diverted via Murrayburn Road and Wester Hales Road from 8 o'clock. Then from 8:45, so not even 45 minutes later, buses were just completely curtailed to the Longstone Bus Garage, meaning that part of Longstone Road, Calder Road, Hermiston Park and Ride, Boundary Road North and East, and the Avenue and Harriet Watt University weren't served. Next up, we have Service 35, which from 8 o'clock did the same diversion as the 25, i.e. Longstone Road, Murrayburn Road, Wester Hales Road, due to Calder Road. And then at 8:45, the bus was completely curtailed to Longstone Bus Depot. These diversions remained in play until the end of service. Next up, Service 36 had the same diversions as the 34, so from 8 o'clock from Longstone Road, buses were instead diverted via Murrayburn Road and Wester Hales Road, not serving part of Longstone Road and Calder Road. Then 45 minutes later, buses were axed to Longstone Bus Depot, meaning that part of Longstone Road, Calder Road, Bankhead Avenue, Bankhead Crossway North, Bankhead Drive, Hermiston Gate, Lochside Avenue, Station Park, Lochside Court, Lochside Crescent, and Gyle Avenue weren't served for the remainder of the 36 being in service for the day. Next up, we have Service 38, which was just immediately cut to Cameron Toll, not doing the weird diversion the 24 did for 5 minutes, as no 38s passed through whilst that diversion was in play, so it was basically just immediately cut to Cameron Toll. This diversion was in play for the rest of the evening. Next up, we have Service 44, which had the exact same diversion as the 26 in Linkfield. So from about 25 past 5 in the evening, buses were rerouted from New Bigging and Pinkey Road via Linkfield Road and the tiny bit of Pinkey Road between Leavenhall Roundabout and Macbeth Moor Road. This diversion was in play for the rest of the evening. Next up, we have services 46 and 48, which between New Craig Hall Road and Pringle Drive were diverted via Milligan Drive and the Wisp due to the stuff happening in Niddry, meaning that it was diverted from about 5 p.m. until the end of service. Next up, we have service 49, which was diverted from Morden Vale Road from about 25 past 6 in the evening via Gilmerton Road, Ferny Hill Drive, and Old Dalkeith Road to the Royal Infirmary campus. This diversion, again, only lasted about 5-10 minutes before it then got cut all the way to Cameron Toll due to stuff happening at Gilmerton Road. Next up, we have Service 200, which was diverted from Clarmiston Road north and Drumbray Drive, running direct between Davidson's Mains Junction and Drumbray South via Queensferry Road and Drumbray North. This diversion was in play from 6:45 in the evening until the end of service. Now, I think this is probably the route that faced the biggest changes in route for the evening. Sheerly because it was the only route that was fully withdrawn for the evening after a certain point. I'm not kidding. So, from 5 o'clock, standard Niddry diversions, so same as the 46 and 48 divert via Milligan Drive and the Wisp, both ways, between Fort Kinnaird and the Royal Infirmary. And then, after that came the South House diversions, roughly an hour and a half later, where buses were diverted via Lastwade Road, Edinburgh Bypass, and Birdie House, both ways, all meeting Captain's Road. And then, I guess, due to everything just escalating dramatically, from 9 p.m., the Service 400 was just completely axed from service until start of service the next day. This is why I think it was the most dramatically affected, because no other route was completely drawn from service. So that has gone through all of the Lothian routes. However, there is still Lothian country to talk about, of which there are 4 routes, which I can technically cover as 3. First off, we have Service 72, which, due to stuff happening in Blackburn, buses were diverted from Elm Grove, Ash Grove, and Bathgate Road, and were to operate directly down Blackburn Main Street, both east and west. Not serving those bits. As for the 73, which has to do a one-way route via Bathgate Road, Ash Grove, Elm Grove, and the Main Street, it instead just got axed to Western Inch with Bathgate Road, Ash Grove, Elm Grove, and Blackburn Main Street. In fact, just Blackburn as a whole not being served. Both of these diversions were in place from roughly 7:15 in the evening until the end of service. And lastly, due to stuff on Calder Road, service X27 and X28 were initially diverted via the same diversion as the 25 and 35 and whatnot, via Longstone Road, Maryburn Road, and Wester Hales Road. However, at around 9 p.m., buses were just completely cut to Hermiston Park and Ride, meaning that Calder Road, Stenhouse Road, Ballgreen Road, Westfield Road, West Approach Road, Lothian Road, and Prince Street and Waterloo Place in Edinburgh City Centre weren't served. This was from 9 o'clock in the evening until the end of service. So as you can see on screen, I've made my own little maps for all the diversions. So first off, we got the Drumbray ones between 7:45 and then 8:55, and then from 8:55 to the end of service. Then we have the Calder Road diversions from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and then from 9 o'clock until the end of service. Next up, we have the South House diversions from 6:30 until 9 p.m, and then afterwards from 9 p.m. until the end of service. Following that, we have the Morden diversions, which lasted about 10 minutes, and then afterwards we have the whole Morden and Gilmerton diversions from about 6:30 until 9 o'clock, and then from 9 o'clock onwards. Then we have the big one in Niddry, which will be 5 o'clock until about 6:30, 6:30 until about 9 o'clock, and then from 9 o'clock until the end of service. And then lastly, we have the Blackburn diversions from 7:15 until the end of service. But yeah, on a serious note, this is just quite distressing. The fact that all this is happening. Like, one of my mates somehow managed to get caught up in some of the rides and sent a clip of him running away with his mates from people shooting fireworks at him. People were literally shooting fireworks at him and they barely managed to escape them.
It's time to put your pajamas on.
But, till next time, take care, folks, and for the love of God, please stay safe.